This death of Laken Riley and the subsequent trial has essentially been a massive political lightning rod here in this country. And you said it there yourself, the president-elect campaigning on the death of Laken Riley and pointing to the current administration, saying that their laws and what they're calling failed policies contributed to Laken Riley's death. I want to remind you that Ibarra entered this country illegally in 2022, according to law enforcement officials, and he was paroled and released for further processing by ICE. And since that time he entered the country, he was arrested another time. Law enforcement officers saying that he was arrested in 2023 in New York City and charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17, as well as a motor vehicle violation. But it's important to note that although there is very little evidence indicating a connection between immigration and violent crime, this is still something the President-elect Trump, several Republicans on the Hill wanted to essentially plant their flag on and point that to the current Biden administration. And we saw that even as early as President Biden's latest State of the Union address, where Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene infamously interrupted President Biden, forcing him to acknowledge the death of Laken Riley, something that President Biden did by holding up a pin in her during that State of the Union. But it is important to note that all of this vitriol that we're hearing from Republicans and President-elect Trump regarding the policies of the Biden administration, it's important to know that President-elect Trump did force Republicans to essentially tank a bipartisan border security bill that both sides of the aisle said would have essentially addressed border security and immigration issues.
Next story about violence in New York City. Another story about it, a city where residents are already questioning why the flood of random attacks.
And this particular attack with an unusual twist clearly proves that nobody is immune to street violence. The victim this time, an assistant district attorney here in Manhattan. She was confronted Sunday at her apartment in Midtown.
And the evildoer in all this, hitting her up for money and then engaged in a disgusting behavior. Here's Lauren Glassberg.
Well, that suspect, 25-year-old Brandon Somoza, will be arraigned at criminal court here in Lower Manhattan, but it will actually be a Bronx district attorney that prosecutes him. That's to avoid any conflict of interest, since the alleged victim is a Manhattan assistant district attorney. This is video of a smiling Brandon Somoza being led out of the Midtown South precinct on West 35th Street this morning. Police say at about 2 a.m. Sunday, he robbed a 38-year-old woman in the hallway of her Hell's Kitchen apartment building. He allegedly grabbed her purse, cell phone, and bank cards, and also performed a lewd act. The victim is a Manhattan assistant DA. She was not injured. Police traced her stolen cell phone to a hotel on West 45th Street, which led them to believe the suspect is a migrant, and they were able to track him down. Somoza was arrested just last night. Police say he was using drugs on the street and had stolen items with him. Police believe he is part of Tren de Aragua. That's the Venezuelan gang that has preyed on people in Times Square and Central Park. Somoza is facing a number of counts, including sexually motivated robbery and burglary. He also has 6 prior arrests, all from this year, on similar crimes, and he's believed to have arrived in the U.S. in February of 2023. In Lower Manhattan, Lauren Glassberg, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Joining me now is Jim Trusty, former assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland and previously represented Donald Trump in both the January 6th and classified documents case. Jim, good to see you again. What do you make of this decision by Alvin Bragg?
I think Bragg's lining up to punt on second down. I mean, you're exactly right. This is crazy territory. And I think there's a backstory that's worth mentioning here. You know, this is, by all accounts, an inventive prosecution. That's probably the cleanest word I can use for it on TV. And one that I know you've called out as being kind of selective and strange and misguided. But it's also a case that even if you accept that these inventive felonies are somehow crimes, that your own internal bookkeeping about a perfectly legal NDA is a crime, it shouldn't lead to jail for anybody.
Right.
And so the backstory in my mind is Bragg's office, for all of these like ridiculous statements about how they just care about accountability and fairness, if they were not seeking jail, they could say, let's just go to sentencing. We're not even asking for prison, judge. Let's get this over with. So clearly, I think behind the scenes, I don't know this from any inside knowledge, but strikes me the right inference here is Bragg's office wants to seek jail on this ridiculous case. And now they want to basically just punt it for 4 years and hope that the dust settles in a way where they can come back and do it. I mean, it's ludicrous to me.
Let's say it wasn't jail time. Let's say it was community service. I mean, I can't see the president-elect, on the side of the road cleaning up trash either.
Well, he has a trash truck and he's got a vest, so I don't know about that, Dan. I mean, that worked out pretty well being called
That's
garbage.
true.